This is Tiff from the Tiffany Micah podcast, and welcome to today's episode. People say this, I hear this quite a bit. I used to do this, I used to be able to do that. I hear my mum say this too. I love my mum. My mum's the most beautiful person in the world. And she says to me, because she's an absolute golf addict, and I think it's fantastic because all her life she's wanted to, play sport, and she didn't get the opportunity so much or the support from her parents growing up, even though that her parents were well-accomplished sports people. When she became an adult, ripe old age of 23, she became a mother of me, and then, spent her life pretty much focused on the family and my sister and us having a wonderful life and looking after us. So now she's in the stage of her life where she can just focus on her, and she has for the last number of years, and she's been playing golf for the last number of years as well, like 10, 12 years or whatever it is. But she says to me is that I used to get on the green for 2 or 3 shots, but now I've lost it. But now it's come back again, and now I'm doing what I used to do. And I was so much better then. And I would always say to her, well, why were you so much better then? Because she actually hits the ball better now than what she did then. And she says, because I would practice every day and I'd really work on my rhythm of my swing, and I would do this and I would do that. And so, and up until the last couple of weeks, because my mum came and stayed with me, a couple of weeks ago, and we really worked on a golf and nutted out what was going on. But I said, well, what do you do at the moment then? This was prior to her spending some time with me. And she said, well, I don't practice, but I expect it should be there. See, and what happens is I have to remind her that to play, because she plays off low 20s, mid to low 20s handicap. So I said to her, for you to play at the level that you want to play, I said, you actually have to do the practice, right? You have to do the work just to stay there. And I tell everybody that as you learn golf, as you play golf and you get better and better, it gets harder because you have to perform. Now, what she's doing, because she came and spent an intensive week with me a few weeks ago, she's really working on her golf, and she's actually hitting the ball so much better. So she has a much better understanding, right? But we can get caught up in living in the past too much, can't we? And just on this area about the practice and so on, and Michael Phelps, I was listening to him talk in an interview with Tony Robbins just recently, and he was saying how it's so much easier to climb the mountain, but when you get to the top, it's harder to stay there. And that was just like I was saying to my mum, with her golf even. It's hard for her to stay there because she's at the level where she has to perform every time she goes out on the golf course when she plays competition. It happens for every level, right? If you're playing A-grade tennis, you have to be practicing to even stay at that level. If you're then obviously hitting the tour and you're working on focusing on hitting the tour, even to get on the tour, you got to work damn hard. Once you get there, it's even harder because you want to stay there, right? But today, yes, it's going to be about you climbing the mountain, right? This is going to be all about you climbing your mountain, but we want to ensure that you get going up the mountain, because it's really important to get going up the mountain, because some people actually don't even start at the bottom of the mountain. And the thing is that for me, when I was pursuing a tennis career especially, I never felt like I even got to the mountain. I never felt like I got to the top of the mountain, because I was finding that I was always living in the past too much. I was looking at what I hadn't achieved. I was always looking at that I was never good enough. I was always looking at that past events has created my future. So I was always looking at everything in a negative way. But if you look at it, like I got the chance to play tennis overseas. I became a tennis coach. I had a sports skills business for kids. I became a golf coach. Got to scratch off golf, all of that kind of thing, right? But how I would look at it was, oh yeah, well, you never became number one, did you? You never became number one tennis player in the world. You never became the pro tennis player that you wanted to become. You know, you're a failure. You're having yourself on. You're not good enough. See, those patterns are always coming up. And what the problem was that I was always looking back at what I hadn't achieved. And this might be you too. This might be where you're at now. You might be keeping looking at the past and looking back and looking at what you hadn't achieved or haven't achieved. Because what would happen then is I would look into the present, and this may be you too, is that I'd actually look into the present, like present time, and then I'd remind myself of what I didn't have, right? You don't have this type of car, you don't have this type of home, you don't have this type of money, you don't have this type of body, right? So I was going between the past and the present and looking at what I didn't have, what I hadn't achieved, what I didn't have. So I never saw a future really because I always looked at what I didn't have and I always believed that it'd never happen. And when I look back to the past now, I'm like, whoa, what was going on there? Why did I feel that way? Why did I keep looking back at the past and looking at what I didn't have and what I hadn't achieved and I was never good enough? I was having myself on. I was a loser. I was helpless. I was hopeless. But I can't believe I actually felt that way. And you may be feeling that way right now. But you can work through that. And that was how I perceived myself. I perceived myself in this very negative light. But what do we know? What do we know right now? We know that we cannot change the past. But you know what else we know? We know that we can learn from the past. Because it's really important that we learn from the past. Right? Because what we want to do is if we learn from the past, we can bring the good stuff with us into the future and into the present. But the other thing is we want to leave the bad stuff. We want to leave it there. Leave it in the past. As long as we learn from it. Right? As long as we learn from the bad stuff. Because I know I was going through a particular pattern when I was growing up. When I was in my early 20s, same pattern. Early 30s, same pattern. Mid-30s, started to change the pattern, right? Things started to change because I started to change the patterns because I became more aware. But you can change the future. I've changed my future, but you can change your future. But how do we change the future if we keep looking into the past? Well, what we need to do is we need to be working on creating the present, right? In order for us to create the present on what we want to have right now, what we're working on right now, then we're going to create the future that we want. Because sometimes when we look into the future, we can't see one because we get too caught up in living in the past. So this is what I want you to do today. We're going to go for a little journey back into the past, and then we're going to come back into the present and we're going to create our future, okay? So, number one, what I want you to do is I want you to write out what are the lessons that you learned from the past. So there's two parts to that. I want you to write out what the good lessons were that you learned, and then I want you to write the bad lessons that you learned. Okay? Just write them out. So then number two is what I want you to do is I want you to answer this question is, are there any good lessons that I can use to build my future? If so, what are they? So you look at all those lessons, those good lessons that you learnt. Can you use any of those good lessons that you learnt to build your future? If you can, write down what they are. Number 3, if there are bad lessons that have happened that you learnt from, can you use them to build your future? If so, what are they? All right, so I'll give you a couple of examples. So here's some lessons, some good lessons about me, right, that I look at. Right, I'm a hard worker, I'm diligent, I'm honest, I'm loyal. I'll keep working until I can figure things out. If I get knocked down, I'll get up again. Right, so even though that I had specific barriers that stopped me because of my belief, I would still keep going, right? I'd still keep working, even though I kept hitting the same barriers, but I would not stop. But what were some bad lessons? I didn't believe in me. I thought I was dumb. I allowed others to influence me. I put myself down. I allowed others to put me down. All right, so those bad lessons. But how could I turn those lessons around and bring them into the future, though? So those bad lessons, right? Not believing in me. Well, I need to believe in me, so I'll believe in me. Thinking I was dumb, that's a bad lesson, isn't it? Oh, I'm an intelligent woman. Allowing others to influence me. I influence me. I create my destiny. Right? Putting myself down. Oh, you're not good enough. You're fantastic, Tiff, and you're awesome. Go after what you want. Right? So it's just learning from those and creating the future. Right? It's all about creating the future so that we can get on and have that awesome present that we want to create right now. Number 4, what can I start working on today to give me the future I really want? So use the qualities that you have. Use the bad lessons and reframe them, re-engineer them, just like what I shared with you before. And then you know what? Then we're going to begin. So no more past. We want to work on staying in the present to create your future. I'm just going to read out those 4 questions for you again. So remember, we're creating the present so we can create the future. So number 1, I want you to write out the lessons that you learned from the past, good lessons, bad lessons. Then I want you to then, number 2 is, are there any good lessons that you can use to build your future? If so, what are they? Number 3, are there any bad lessons that you could use to build your future? If so, what are they? So we want to reframe them. And number 4, what can you start working on today that will give you the future that you really want? Okay, so I want you to begin that. No more past, stay in the present, and we're going to work on creating your future. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you feel that you got value out of this episode, I'd love it if you could share with me what you like best about what you heard today. If you just have 30 seconds to spare, I would really appreciate if you could leave a 5-star review wherever you hear these episodes. If you've got friends that you know that would benefit from these episodes, I'd love it if you could share with your friends, because we want to build the Reach Your Potential with Tiff community as big as we possibly can. And you know what you're doing it, don't you? You're going to dream really big. You're going to really believe in you, and you're going to go after your dreams. Have an awesome day. Take care. Talk soon. Bye-bye.
Yeah.